Can I ask you, who is going to pay for the rights of Northern Ireland residents who identify themselves as being Irish and therefore will continue with the possibility of an EU passport after Brexit? Things like, for example, the European health insurance card, and probably more importantly, other further rights that the European Union may grant in the future. There are three possible pays for this, of course. There's the United Kingdom, there's the Republic of Ireland, and there's the European Union itself. Which one of those will pay for those rights?
Well, the question of the, sorry, I was just checking the references, because the question of things like the healthcare rights were actually covered in the joint progress report that was published between the United Kingdom and the European Union. This has been exactly one of the issues that has been under discussion between the, in order to ensure citizens' rights in the future, and making sure that those arrangements could continue as they do at present.
Well, clearly, but there may be rights that the European Union decides to award its citizens in the future, and very often rights do have a price tag. And whilst the rights are a good thing, clearly we have to consider who is going to pay for them. So in the future, were the European Union to award rights, given that we have accepted that those identifying as Irish will continue as European Union citizens, though resident in Northern Ireland, it would be useful to know who would actually be responsible for paying for any consequentials.
Well, I'm sorry, I've just been shown the reference in the Joint Progress Report, which I was looking for, it specifies in the European Health Insurance Card scheme that persons whose competent state is the UK and are in the EU 27 on the specified date and vice versa, whether on a temporary stay or resident, continue to be eligible for healthcare reimbursement, including under the EHIC scheme, as long as that stay, residence or treatment continues, and that obviously that's an agreement that is going to take place in the future, so we will continue to be able to do that. And Prime Minister, that would hold for any other further rights that the European Union might wish to award within healthcare or elsewhere? Well, no, that is specific about the current arrangements that residents have within the European Union, and therefore because that citizens' rights element of this is about ensuring that the choices people have already made will continue to be respected in the future, and it's in that context that is set. Okay, all right, thank you. So any further rights that the European Union may determine would be paid for by who? Well, as it also says in the Joint Progress Report, specifically in relation to Northern Ireland, both parties agree that the withdrawal agreement should respectively, without prejudice to the rights, opportunities and identity that come with European Union citizenship for such people, that is the people of Northern Ireland who are Irish citizens and will continue to enjoy rights as EU citizens, and in the next phase of negotiations will examine arrangements required to give effect to the ongoing exercise of and access to those rights. Well, thank you. Can I press you on paragraph 49 of the joint report and the constructive ambiguity contained therein? The default position is obviously option 3, which you have cited. And I'm puzzling over some of the words because it mentions the whole island economy, the all-island economy, now and in the future in relation to the rules of the internal market and the customs union, which may be subject to full alignment. Now, given that the all-island economy now or in the future means practically everything, all sectors, all industries, all products, I'm wondering where the divergence may emerge in order to continue to provide our right honourable friend, the member for North Somerset, with a job. If I can just, I'm afraid I will repeat the point that I made in response to the very first set of questions that I was given. This is not the default position in the sense it's the default position. Because there are 2 phases that we will be going through, and I fully expect that we will be able to resolve the issue about the border in Northern Ireland in the first element of negotiations, i.e. through the overall EU-UK relationship. There's a second stage we can go to if we fail that. This is then the final, as I say, default rather than being the automatic stage that we go to if we don't manage to achieve this through the EU-UK relationship.
I have to press you on this because we have to look at the worst possible option, and option 3 is clearly the worst option.
Well, and you will, I'm sure, excuse me if I say that I do sometimes hope that people would look at the best possible option as well as only ever looking at the worst possible option, as you have described it. This is to give the guarantee that we will ensure that there is no hard border in Northern Ireland. The all-Ireland economy already is there in a number of areas. I cited some of the examples in relation to the first question that I was asked. But if you go on to read in paragraph 50, it's clear that we will also ensure that we don't do this in a way that disrupts or damages the economic integrity of the United Kingdom. As it says, no new regulatory barriers develop between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK unless actually consistent with the Belfast Agreement. The Northern Ireland Executive and Assembly have agreed that.
Where do you think we can diverge? We must be able to diverge, and at the moment that option 3 suggests that we simply will not diverge at all.
What option 3 is saying is that if we get to that point, we will ensure that it is possible for trade to continue across the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland without having a hard border and without having that physical infrastructure at the border. That is the commitment that has been given. It's a commitment that we believe, because we've already put forward some proposals on this, can be achieved as part of the wider relationship between the UK and the European Union. We will now be able to discuss that, to negotiate that in detail with all the parties concerned. We haven't been able to do that up until now because we've been in phase 1 of the negotiations. Now we've got sufficient progress and move into phase 2. We'll be able to look at this in detail with the other parties.